Johnny!
Hard at work, I see.
It's showtime.
Yep. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. As you can see, we're starting to get this thing disassembled to see what the F is going on in here. And I've already gotten the water pump off and the crank pulley off, and right now I'm working on the exhaust manifold for this side because the other side is going to need some surgical work to get that one off. So, let's continue. For the third time this month. There it is.
Yeah, getting pretty good at it by now. Alright. Start lining shit up. What's next? The Intaki?
Yeah, well, distributor and stuff first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that should be next.
Good. Alright, so finally got the first head off, and it became very evident that Houston, we have a problem. And what's interesting, and Ethan's going to show you here in a second, is this, which we're not sure where it came from, but it looks like it bounced around a little bit and then lodged itself into the piston, and I'm really surprised it didn't bust the piston. However, he's going to take you over and show you the head. With the combustion chambers on these Vortec heads, this was actually hitting the closed chamber portion. You can see a mark in it right there. So far, until we get the whole thing ripped down, seems to be the problem. But which we're going to keep ripping and tearing because this engine is filthy and
right.
As far.
But we also need to surgically remove that exhaust manifold on that side too, because it's the studs are just gone. But another thing too, remember how I said that orange Dex Cool stuff is crap? Just look at this. Like, all of these passages are super plugged up with just junk.
In the blocks.
And it's a miracle that this thing was operating at operating temperature.
Yeah. Not a fan of that orange Dex Cool shit. A lot of people aren't because it gums up.
Yeah. So we should be able to reuse that head. It shouldn't cause a problem. No. Whether or not that...
Might have to get a piston, probably be a good idea at least, but
the head, there's not enough of an indentation to be a problem, so we should be able to reuse it.
Be fine. So, onward and upward.
Yep. Okay, yesterday, tried taking some of these exhaust manifold bolts out. They were pretty bad. We got most of them spun out. I still need to do that one. We need to spin this one out, which shouldn't be a problem, and this one. But... sidebar,
just a public service announcement: be careful when you buy a used vehicle because you never know what Johnny Electrician was having their way with it.
Yeah.
We still don't know what this was supposed to be connected to. We understand it's a ground strap.
I'm assuming they were trying to repair a ground strap.
I don't know. I wonder if the lighting in their house is still working since they had to steal this from somewhere. So, but yeah, seriously, ground strap. What do they call it?
In fact, I bet. No, it won't even come off. But
all right, let's keep going.
So Johnny's on his inside project, but other heads off. The pistons on this side look okay. Other than there's weird scratch marks on this one. But all the lifters have been pulled out of their bore, and I'm not sure if this is a thing or not. But I put them back in the bags for their respective rocker arms and push rods and stuff.
For now.
Oh, and harmonic balancer's been pulled off, and next we're gonna rip off the timing cover. And there's a torso drop. Yeah!
So, yay! Overcompensation.
Alright, oil pan, timing cover off, and yeah, just not gonna go there. So taking off the timing set right now, and the rod bearings seem to be okay. Just by feel.
Up and down play at all.
Right.
So the theorists out there that it's a rod bearing, probably not. We'll know for sure once we tear the rods apart. But doesn't appear that that's a problem.
Correct.
However, this motor definitely needed a refresh because based on the filth that we found in it and that timing chain and stuff, yeah. So Not that it was scheduled to build this year, but it's kind of a good thing that whatever happened, so we tore it down.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it needs some love.
Yeah. So, be back with you in a bit. Okay, we're ready to start disconnecting rotating assembly, and I marked each cap to its respective piston, and the mains also are marked. Cylinders, yeah, whatever. And the caps have also been indentated. That one's pretty obvious where it goes. So, back in a sec. Well, I started pulling pistons. So far, we found one breaking ring, but all the bearings and bearing surfaces seem okay. We've only pulled out a third
rods. We haven't got to the mains yet.
Well, yeah, but rod-wise, they seem to be okay. And just taking them out and setting them hither. Well, crank, pistons, everything out. All bearing surfaces look okay. We're still going to put new bearings in it. For
Just cause,
yeah. Only damage we really found.
one broken
ring, which is in 3 pieces here, and the number 3 piston, and that was it. So it looks like that was the problem.
So it was not a connecting rod.
Kevin.
Well, anybody else that said that too.
Or that. So.
I said it wasn't.
Tomorrow, I'm gonna start scrubbing this thing and
fire the parts cannon.
that too. Even though we've already fired
Oh, that was just
many gaskets and things, but
the pond.
and the only thing that happened head-wise was one broken bolt at the front for the exhaust manifold, but other than that, it's fine. So, same thing goes for, like I said, with the number 3, you can still use this head, so it's not that big a deal.
Nothing wrong with it.
No. So the piston's going to be debatable, so be back tomorrow. Well, motor soaked and easy off like we had it before, and we also cleaned head gasket surfaces as well. It's hard to tell. Now I got this thing ready to soak down and some easy off as well. I got the wires all just flipped over the fender for now. It's not super bad, but still should probably do it. So soak this down and then I'll pressure wash it, and then we should be good to go. Well, now we have made a professional sanding block to polish the surface over a beautiful big block. Now, it's just nothing special.
Why are you talking like that?
I don't know. Because I'm a salesman.
We ain't selling it.
Yeah, we are. $200 our best offer.
I know what I got.
We got plenty to make more.
$50.
You know what you got. And we'll even throw in a set of headers for you, too.
Oh.
You make surface true, yes?
As true as I can with sandpaper and a metal block.
That's good news.
I'm not sending it to a machine shop because,
So,
unfortunately, where we live, closest one's probably minimum 2 hours away. Number 1, number 2. I don't feel like waiting 6 months for them to deck it. So
that's true.
all right, this is coming out really good. I haven't bet that at this for maybe 8 minutes, but I thought maybe I would share with everybody if you do decide to do this at home on your own project. All I'm using is some 800 grit sandpaper on a 2x2 metal square tube. It's in WD-40, and I do a few passes back and forth. And the reason for this being so long is you want to bridge the whole thing, which I'm sure there's people out there that know this, but maybe some people do not. So after a few passes this way, then I will come back and do 45 degrees this way. That way you're still bridging the cylinder and not leaning off to one way or the other. Is this the right way?
Nope.
I don't know. Is it the way I've done it in the past?
Yep.
And it worked all fine and good. So, originally too, most of the head gasket came off pretty good. Then we razor bladed the chunks that were still stuck. Then I took a worn out Scotch-Brite on the Wizzy disc and used WD-40 and kind of got rid of the little black sections of the head gasket. And now I'm just doing this to get rid of anything that's left and make sure everything's true and flat and straight.
Which, as a comparison, this side looks much better compared to this side, which we really haven't touched yet.
Actually, well,
this side doesn't look terrible
I used
either.
the Scotch-Brite on this, but I haven't sanded it yet.
Right.
But here, let me like I was saying, after even a few minutes of this, it's coming out really, really nice. If this was a 1,000 horsepower build, I would take it to a machine shop, but it's a stock build and your cast heads and
yeah, which we were gonna do a cam, but
fine.
Unless you spend many amounts of money, you can't really do it.
Yeah, it's not just a cam. There's
lifters, push rods, valve springs, guide plates. There's just a lot of
so
junk.
We're just gonna put the old cam back in because there's nothing wrong with it.
Now,
but yeah, that cleaned up really nice. I'm super happy with that. So,
oops.
For
also this front end of it's kind of finished too.
Yeah, I used the Scotch-Brite on that, and I'm going to use this on it too after I do the other head or other cylinder surface. But yeah, this just turned out really nice, and I'm happy with it, and it should work just fine. And if it don't, it don't. So while we're waiting for the parts cannon to arrive, I've taken the day and wire wheeled all these parts like motor mounts and braces, cleaned everything up, and the front pulley. So I'm gonna throw some paint on there and make them pretty once again.
Well, he's painting stuff. We can't show that on YouTube. I'll blur that out with the truck.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so now that we've had it down this far, plus these are pretty bad, we're gonna change the motor mounts. Already got some on the way, but to get these out, and like I said, they're pretty dry rotted. And is that a piece of tape? Anyway, it's just 3 bolts in the frame. Should be okay to get to, I would think, since there's no coil springs. There's a diff though, so see what happens. Well, this one's apart. I need to get scuffed up and painted. Now, to me, did you throw that motor out today? Yes. Next to us both. These moto mounts seem small for those bracket jaws, but they've never run apart before because no one ever drawed out the rivet holes. So they have over time severely rotted away or something.
I don't think it's raw. They're 25 years old. It's time to upgrade.
But on our 93, we put different poly mounts in that one, and they were filled up this whole cavity. So I don't know, but figure it out.
So, couple coats of paint later. Sexy, no? Hey, you're gonna rip the whole thing down. Might as well make it pretty when you put it back together, right?
Okay, we're running cylinders now, and behind me I have the tub of oil that we drained out of this motor. And what you do is you just dip it in here and spin it around and let it drip off for a while.
Which is saturated. Like barely used, so don't like complain because there's like maybe 200 miles on that oil and there's nothing in it, so it's fine to use for.
It looks dark, but I don't think it's as dark as
it's fine.
So just get it started in here, and then you go up and down really fast 5 times, like so. And then take your rag. Wipe off your cylinder walls, and you might be able to see it. I don't know if you can.
Hard to see in white, but
there's nice cross hatching.
Yeah, this completes this side. All 4 of these ones are done, so just trying to get it prepped for so we start reassembly. All right, kids. So we're starting the reassembly of the 454. We chose to put the camshaft in first, and Ethan's torqued down the
already done.
Retaining plate at 10 foot-pounds. We did the cam first because it's easier to get in there and make sure that all of the bearing surfaces are oiled up real good, because as you know, when you slide the cam in, by the time you get to the back, all your oil's been wiped off. So it's easier to do this first before while you got room to get your hands in there and do it. So moving on.
The crank has been set into its journals, including mains now, and we'll put new bearings in them. Rain.
Yeah, welcome to Pennsylvania.
Many amounts. It was sunny earlier.
At least it ain't snow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
These 4 caps are all down to this torque spec of 102. Just got this one left. And we tightened them down on 75 before, and it spun just fine. So.
And according to the manual, they're supposed to be 102.
Correct. And it didn't give any specified steps, so.
Yeah, we did it in what, 4 increments, I think?
Yeah, we did like 30, 50, 75, and 102.
Alright.
So.
There we go, boys and girls. Crankshaft's back in, torque down, cam's in.
Yep.
So. Next up will be pistons, connecting rods, and stuff, but
Yerps.
not today.
Nope.
So.
And we get dinner stuff.
Yep. So we'll be back another day.
Yep.
So just a quick update on what's going on next. We're about to start putting pistons and rods and stuff in. So we're going through and cleaning off all the carbon and oil buildup from however many 100,000 miles was on this engine. So actually, surprisingly, the ring grooves are actually pretty clean. There wasn't really a lot of carbon buildup, so these are actually cleaner than some of the ones that I've done before. But all I'm using is wire brush on a Wizzy disc, and just taking my time, just taking the buildup out of here, off the top of the piston. Here, like where the wrist pins and stuff are already built up there, and then going back through with a broken ring. If you take a ring and you break it and use like the machined edge, it's like the perfect thing to get down into grooves and clean any carbon or whatever out of there. And then after that, I'm just following up with brake clean and like a nylon brush, just to get any whatever deposits that are left, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So got 4 more to go, and then we'll start putting rings on. Alright kids, so all the pistons are clean and ready to get rings installed. Currently my ring compressor is MIA. We'll have to find that, and it's starting to get late in the evening, and so we figured we'd tackle one little job before we sign off for the day. And we're going to put the new timing set on. But I wanted to point out something when we tore this engine down, that the old timing chain was in very poor shape. As you can see how it was actually started rubbing the block, and I'm wondering in the back of my brain if that wasn't one of the noises that we were hearing, because we didn't really find anything other than that little piece in the top of the piston that was making any racket, because all the bearings in the bottom end were really good. Actually, it could have been reused, but I've got new ones anyway. So since this is a stock build with a Cloy's C3216, it's just a single roller stock replacement. So we're going to go ahead and throw that on and call it for the day.
Oof, me. I can't say that.
Pretty sure you can.
I don't know, it's Derek copyright.
I don't think he's copyright.
Oh, I gotta spin the cam a little bit.
Alright, we're back. We got it on. Just had to get things lined up a little better. And Ethan's torquing these down with some Loctite at what?
20 foot-pounds.
20
By the way,
foot-pounds. What?
Eastwood, you suck. In a way. Your half-inch torque wrenches, we have broken 2.
Yeah, well, the first one that we got
was already
defective, and the second one we got, we only used it on one other engine.
Yeah.
And now it's
whenever we
out of whack.
went to torque down the main bearings, it was
wasn't clicking right, and it was way over torquing. So so be on the lookout out there if anybody wants to buy an Eastwood torque wrench. The 3/8 one seems to work good, but the half-inch one, not so much.
And we used the Hoover Freight one that we've had for years.
Yep. Always works good.
I don't know what the deal with the half-inch ones are, but
I don't know. But anyway, so that's done. So moving on. Real quick, I'd like to take a minute here and go over these motor mount inserts because Summit's website originally had the wrong part number when you looked up let's see, my truck is a 2000 GMC K2500 OBS, and the part number that they had in there for energy suspension was not this. It was a 3.112R, I believe. The inserts were way too big for the factory clamshells. So after a couple different phone calls, came to find out that, because if you look it up by Gen 6 454, it gives you this number, and it turns out that this is the number needed for my particular vehicle, and I'm sure there's a lot of other OBSs out there that use these same clamshells. So sent the other ones back. They sent me these ones. They fit perfectly. I also read in some of the reviews, and I've seen different comments about how people are having a rough time installing these. They're a breeze. I'm not sure why people have such a hard time. They do fit very tightly. Easiest way to do it is from the factory. There's rivets in these empty holes. Drill them out to separate the mount. Take the rubber part out, put the poly part in, put them back in a vise, put your mounting bolts back in to hold everything together. And each one of these mounts comes with 3 zip ties. So in the holes that you drilled the rivets out, you just put these 3 zip ties in there to keep them together until you bolt them back onto the frame. And then they won't fall apart. And once they're bolted to the frame, they won't come apart. So just a little tech tip. So enjoy.
well, just like that, new clamshells are installed and ready to go, and whenever this is ready to get, motor's ready to get back in the truck.
Alright, everybody, when we put the crank in, I didn't really say what the part number was of the bearings we used, but it's these are Molly Clevites MS829H, or supposedly a high performance version.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know, they're made out of like 3 different kinds of metals or some crap, I don't know. But anyway, and for the connecting rod bearings, it's also Molly Clevites, the same type of metal that those are made out of, and these are a CV-743HN, I'm sorry, that we'll be putting in as we put the pistons in. Now, what I also wanted to do was go over putting rings on pistons, and because I'm sure a lot of you have probably done it, but maybe somebody hasn't, and whatever. The biggest thing is when you get your rings, pay close attention to the instructions, and I'll explain why. So these are your oil rings. Now here it tells you that sometimes, and on the factory rings there was a dot on the top ring, that means dot faces up. However, on these rings, on the top ring, there's nothing. So it says in the instructions that there's nothing, they can go either way, it doesn't matter. However, on the second ring, it says that or it's the same thing. There should be some sort of mark. It should either say top or have a dot or whatever. Now, on the top ring, it is machined the same on both sides. On the second ring, it's hard to see, but on the one side, there's a bevel that goes around. Now, when I first opened these, I was curious as to whether or not the bevel went up or down. My brain said down, but I wanted to make sure. Then if you look, I'm not sure if you catch it on camera, but the second ring says top, which means,
yeah, you can say it,
this faces up. Now, in the instructions, it also tells you that top does not indicate piston ring groove location. Each one of these rings came in a bag stating second ring, first ring. The other ones were for the oil rings or whatnot. And they are, I got these Hastings 2M4718s. They're all Molly steel ring. Anyway, and so that's what we're using now.
Oh, should also point out, in case you don't know,
what?
These are your, oh yeah, I guess you already did, oil rings.
Yes, right. So I've already done 7 of them, so I figured I would walk through how I do these rings, Some people walk them on, some people use a tool. First thing I do is put that in there, then I flip it upside down because you have to put your oil rings. One goes in the bottom, one goes in the top. So instead of trying to walk it on from this direction for the bottom ring, I just slide it over the rod. Just slide it down until it pops in the bottom groove like that. Then I flip it over, put my finger on the middle of it to hold it where it's supposed to go, and I will start walking it around this way. These are very thin, they're easy to manipulate to get them in the groove they're supposed to go in, if they actually go where they're supposed to go. Try to see. There we go. Just kind of walk it around. Now, once I have the oil rings on there, I always like to keep them 180 degrees out. So if you look real close, there's a split here, split there. So what I'll do is I'll keep one here, and on this one I will slide it around to the other side. So you have an opening here, and the other opening is 180 degrees. So then I will take the second ring next, because it has to go over this way, and I don't want the first ring getting involved. So top, and I have this tool to actually expand these, which the instructions recommend you use this instead of trying to walk them on. I have done that in the past, but I have this tool. It was like $5 somewhere. I got it a long time ago, and you just expand these out, slide it in the groove. I always put one facing this way, and then grab the other one, open it up. This is the top ring, put it in there. Now you have your top ring gap is here, your second ring gap is here, oil ring gap here, oil ring gap here. So that's pretty much all there is to it, putting rings on. Alright, kiddo, tell the viewers what you're doing now.
Well, we have 7 of these 8 cylinders, all in and torqued down, and I have the 8th one ready to go in with the ring compressor installed from Hobo Freight. And the bearing is all lubed up with ultra stick. Ew. Anyway.
Is that a booger?
Might have been.
Cool.
And what you get to do, just gonna gently set this down in here like such with the dot facing forward.
There you go. Okay. And
now
there's a bunch of oil in there.
Correct.
To make sure whenever everything slides in, it just goes in. So you're not like tri-metal on metal.
And before it goes in, since this is just a cheaper one because we're B-budget.
But it works.
It does work. We've done this with 2 motors now.
I was going to say, quit hating.
I'm not hating. But you just got to even it out, make sure it's nice and flat. And then what you're going to do is hold this down and give it a couple good smacks. And boom, you're inside the cylinder. Now.
Okay, what's next?
Now, I'm going to make sure that your journal is lined up with the rod, and just slowly tap it down over. Until you get that solid sound.
You hear that echoey sound where it gets vibrating through the whole engine. That means you're in.
Yes.
So what's next?
Now we have the rod cap with some ultra slick on this bearing. And the locky tab, which is hard to see because it's pretty small,
it's right there.
Goes with the other locky tab on this one, which in this case is towards the outside of the block. And just work it up onto the threads. And you got your 2 knuts. Now, these ones don't just sit on there. These come kind of in a way or a press fit.
Yeah, the bolts themselves are knurled once you get the bottom side of the connecting rod up on there, so it's kind of a tight fit. So you can't just crank one down and then come back for the other one. You gotta draw them in kind of together. That way they draw evenly. And the torque spec on those for this particular engine is
47 foot-pounds with the one good Eastwood torque wrench we have. And then just gotta slowly just start cranking them up until the mating surface is mated.
And also make sure whenever you're hammering the piston and the connector rod down in, when it seats down on the crank, before you put the cap on the rod, make sure the bearing didn't shift or something. Make sure it's still locked in place where it's supposed to be on that portion, so that way when you put the cap on, everything locks down the way it's supposed to.
It's kind of tight, and you gotta go to this one again. You'll know when it's seated, because then it'll get tighter, and then you just go till the click. And then do to the other one. And just because I'm this person, I'm going to go back and double check them again. So.
And then, what happens when you spin that bolt?
They all go wee! Just give me a second.
Look at that. Look at that. It may actually run again.
Well, I don't have cylinders that move up and down, I can give you that much.
That is true.
I might smoke oil because there's a bunch of oil.
Alright, cool. Moving on. Alright, so now that the rotating assembly is done, we are going to go ahead and install the new oil pump. This is a Melling Pump M77 HV high volume pump. /353. If you go on Summit's website, that's the part number. But what's really cool about this is this pump is designed for the deep truck pans, like so, and it already has the pickup attached to it and spot welded, so you don't have to buy a pump and a separate pickup and then figure out where you need to be. All the guesswork's done. And anybody out there that's still using this stupid nylon bushings that hold your oil pump to the drive shaft for your distributor, please stop, because all they do is break apart and land in your motor. These Molly metal sleeves, we've been using these for a while now. They are a little salty, but they're worth their weight in gold. So now we're going to go ahead and slap the oil pump on, and
first we'll put a little bit of right stuff.
Well, but anyway,
if you need it, I don't know.
Yeah. And then we're done with for the day, right? Yes.
Yeah, I think so. It's good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, good day. So another quick job. I'm sure a lot of you are building an engine. You take the balancer off. It's got a lot of mileage on it. Usually the front seal wears a groove in the balancer. Timing set that I got came with a new sleeve, some Loctite. I had this in the freezer overnight. I'm going to throw some Loctite on that. Put a block of wood on it. We'll whap it with a hammer. And there you have it. Took all of 20 seconds. It's really easy to do, but a lot of people don't think about freezing the balancer because it helps shrink it down. You can actually heat that ring up if you wanted to a little bit, but it's really not necessary. So, yep, quick and easy, another repair done. Alright kids, so after a couple hours of what I'd like to call an archaeological dig, managed to get all of the crud off of this timing cover, and it was bad. Had to use various different scrapers and wire wheels and screwdrivers and brake clean and you name it, whatever I could get into, whatever nook and crannies there are. So I'm finally to the point now where I can get the new front seal put in here. And I just want to point out that this Full Pro kit that I got, this TCS 45053, it's one of the things I got off Rock Auto. It's a pretty nice kit. It comes with the O-ring seal for the back of the cover, water pump seals, comes with a tube of black RTV. It also came with a sleeve that went on the balancer and the new seal for the front. So since I don't have anybody to hold the camera with me right now because the kiddo is still in school, I'm gonna slap a little bit of RTV around the edge of the seal and drive it in. I'll be back in a minute. And there we have it. A couple minutes later, the new O-ring seals installed, front cover seals installed, and beautiful kit. Everything fits really perfect. So kiddo will be home shortly, so we're gonna put on the engine, and then it's time to start cleaning the oil pan. Yay for me! I've earned a happy hydrator. All right, kids, we did some work off camera. Currently, we are installing the new oil pan gasket and put the oil pan on. This is a Felpro OS34407R. It's a one-piecer that does this. And Ethan's getting ready to put the oil pan on now.
Yeah. You gotta kind of fish the pick up.
Going fishing?
Then you gotta.
In the dark.
Sits down there.
Yep. And see what you said torque is 17 foot-pounds.
17 foot-pounds. However, I'm doing inch-pounds.
It doesn't matter. 204 inch-pounds or 17 foot-pounds. And obviously, spoiler alert, that's going to be the color of the engine. So the timer cover's on, balancer's on. So I did a little pre-painting behind things since you can't really get there once everything's pulled together. So
Super 10.
It's over there.
Super. Next to Johnny. Is that Johnny's now?
No, it's mine.
Oh.
Alright, so we still have the top end and stuff to put on, but we've been cleaning this thing and cleaning this thing and cleaning this thing, and I'm tired of cleaning it. So while we're getting the heads and stuff cleaned off before we relap the valves and whatnot, I figured I'd throw a coat of paint on here. So this bottom end will be quote unquote finished. This paint really sucks. This duplicolor engine crap wants to run, doesn't want to cover. I'm not really happy.
I used it on that motor. It wasn't terrible, but after you get more coats on it, it seems to stick a little better and look a little better. But first couple of coats kind of suck.
Yeah.
Sidebar. The other head. We're taking the exhaust manifolds off. All the studs were pretty much junk. However, hammering some sockets on, got all of them except that one. And we tried using a bolt extractor kit. The extractor broke, and we tried drilling it out again with the same bit. And that extractor is such a hard metal, did not want to drill through. So we're just gonna leave it like that and use some high temp Permatex exhaust stuff on this port and hope it seals up.
Alright kids, so the bottom end is complete. We spent the better part of a couple of days stripping the heads down. There was tons of sludge and tons of rust on this cast iron. I had to use wire wheels, sometimes a screwdriver and a hammer to break free a bunch of chunks. All the coolant port passages were plugged up with random whatever, I don't know. But since then, everything has been wire wheeled, dunked in a diesel solution, brushed, scrubbed. All the gasket surfaces are clean. So now we before we did all that, we did a leak test, and this is the driver's side head, and 3 of the 4 exhaust valves were leaking just a teeny weeny bit, as far as like a couple of drops of liquid coming out the exhaust port. So since one of the gasket kits came with new valve seals, I figured it'd be better just to strip them all down and clean everything anyway, because a lot of these valves are carboned up pretty bad. But I don't think it's bad enough that we need an actual valve job. So I'm going to go through and clean all the valves, and then I picked up some of this valve grinding compound, and I'm going to do some lapping to make sure I can clean the surfaces up before we put all the stuff back together. And I do not have one of the suction cup tools that you use to do this by hand, but I do have a drill, and a lot of people use them. Some people say not to, but it's all I got and I'm going to use it, so it is what it is. And also, just so everybody knows, that when we tore all this stuff apart, every valve, every retainer, every spring, every lock all went in its own separate bag. So every piece that came out of whatever valve for whatever cylinder is going to go back in its respective home. So grab your favorite happy hydrator and let's get started.
Okay, valve lapping compound has been put on the valves, so the drill is attached. So would you care to explain, sir?
I already ground this one once. I want to touch it up just a little bit more, so I'm going to run it a few more times. So basically what I do is, and there's a million videos on YouTube, which is how I learned to do this, I just run it in and out and just let it kind of grind in as it touches the surface. Then I'll do it forward for a little bit, backwards for a little bit, forward for a little bit, then I'll pull it out and check it. And you can hear the sound as it starts to grind and then it gets quieter.
Oil your valve stem too.
Oh yeah, put oil inside the valve stem so as you're spinning it around there's some lubrication in there. Then pull this out, clean the compound off of it.
Then have a noisy truck go by.
People go by as we're doing this. As you can see, starting to catch some light there. You can see a machine surface that will match the machine surface in the head once I wipe it off.
And you can see the same thing like we said on the head. So we have this valve and an exhaust valve for number 3 to go.
And then this one will be done.
Yes.
And just a disclaimer, this is the first time I've ever done this, so if I'm doing it wrong, I'm doing it wrong. If I'm doing it right, I'm doing it right. We're going to find out, because once we get all the valves in, we're going to flip it over and do a leak test.
Yeah, because some of the valves had the little trail of oil coming out, which actually the one we just put in doesn't, but I still want to double check it before we slap it on the truck.
I will say this, they weren't any worse than they were.
No. Oh my god, oh that's a wreck semi.
We'll find out here shortly.
Okay.
And also I just wanted to go through, while I was doing this, Ethan was cleaning all the parts, the springs, the locator, the retainer, the locks and everything, and we're using this really crappy.
Yeah, it gets worse and worse and worse every time we use it.
Yeah, it keeps falling apart, but it's still hanging in there.
Yeah,
so,
this little tiny.
What is this? This came from Amazon.
Yeah. Episteme or something. ATPM.
ATP.
Yeah.
Anyway.
ATP valve spring compressor tool.
New, made in China to USA. Yeah, you got that right. It's definitely Chinese. You don't buy this.
However, you got to give credit where credit's due. It does work.
It does work, but
not
it's a
great.
pain in the ass. So
not great, but it does work.
If you want a good one, kick up a couple more nickels and get a good.
However, we're not one of those people that do this every day, so.
That is true, and it is working. It's just really crappy. Yeah. All right, so off we go. Ethan pointed out that these are also new valve seals that came with, I think, the valve cover gaskets. Velcro SS72823. Pretty sure they were a package deal with the valve cover gaskets. But,
I remember.
Anyway.
I think they were a package deal with something.
Yeah, one of the gaskets kits that we bought.
Maybe head gaskets, I don't know.
No, it wasn't really good. I just don't think so. I don't know. Anyway, but that's what they are. So, and they seem to be working really, really well.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Well, they're better than the ones that came off.
They fit.
Well,
right, that's what we know.
As far as I'm concerned.
If it fits, it ships.
If it fits, it ships.
Okay.
Alright, kids. So, head number 1 is fully assembled. We have some liquid in the combustion chamber.
Mean green.
Well,
Super strength to cleaner in the greaser.
anyway, but there's nothing coming out any of the intake ports or exhaust ports. We did this test before we tore everything apart. 3 of the exhaust ports immediately started dripping out.
Now, you can see some moisture in there, but all that's oil.
It's oil to keep things from rusting while we're working on stuff, from flash rusting. So you can do this at home. Give it a try. What you can do is screw it up.
We're nitwits.
Exactly. It'll either work or it won't.
Boltaka.
So tomorrow, start working on the other one. Woohoo, good times.
Or put this one on.
Yeah, if you want to waste a day, tear your heads apart and lap your valves and put it all back together.
Actually, it was 2 days, actually.
Well,
technically.
Didn't really start on it until today. As far as putting things back
disassembly day was one day.
Disassembly, that's different, but putting things back together and lapping valves.
Oh, anyone want a free, crappy valve compressor?
I'm going to use it for the other head and send it back to Amazon because it already broke.
Oh, this video won't be out till we do the other head. Okay, new head gasket installed. We're using ARP head bolts for this, as I believe we have said before. Now, we're applying ultra torque lubricant, or whatever it's called, that they call it, between the washers and the shoulders of the bolts.
So much ultra torque and chassis twisted coming off the line.
I don't think the bolts twist the chassis.
I'm just saying.
Anyhow.
I felt like being Vin Diesel there for a minute.
Okay. You have fun with that. We're also using Consuela, or whatever you want to call it, depending on who you watch on YouTube. On the threads of the bolts, because some of them go in the water jacket, so you want to make a nice seal for said bolts. So we got 2 in so far, and there's 14 more to go, I think.
Easy dubs. The part number on these bolts is ARP 135-3601. And if you look them up on Summit's website, they are designed for putting the cast heads back on your block.
Yes.
But there was questions in there about, will these work for these women's heads or these whatever? Blah, blah, blah. It says right on there, they're designed for cast head, factory cast heads.
Head gasket number is 1037, I think, Velcro.
Yes. And if you look that up, you'll get conflicting information as well, as far as Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6. I did a lot of research, and these do work for Gen 6.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Sport.
Also kind of jumping the gun here a little bit too, but
Jumping the gun.
You also follow their torque spec, which is 7 foot-pounds.
In 3 equal
sequences, which we're going to do 30, 50, 70.
Yes, the factory says...
Yeah, it's something weird, because in this Haynes manual, 37 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees on the short bolts and 150, which also just doesn't even seem like a lot of torque anyway. But
we don't have one of those degree-really things, so...
Yeah.
We're just going to do it this way.
And another weird thing, I'm not sure if anyone can answer me this question. Why is it that the torque specs go from 88 to 97, and then 98 has its own separate year, and then it goes to 99 through 2000? Would anybody care to answer that for me? Okay, one head torqued. Now, I'm going to switch gears to the other head, which is soaking in diesel, and it's been for like 2 days now, 3 days, something like that. And it's going to make the lid go weak, and then scrub this thing down with some wire brushes and some scrub brushes, and then take it out there to the pressure washer with some easy off to on top of the sawhorses to blast off the diesel and other remnants of things.
So I can work on it tomorrow
Yes.
while you're in school. So when you get home tomorrow, maybe we put it on.
Correct. 16 valves later, we're done with the crappy valve compressor.
Yeah. Yay, China.
Well, I guess you gotta give it credit. It worked 32 times, technically.
It broke twice. So.
That head is also painted, and the temp sender and spark plugs are reinstalled off of the side. So now that the valves on that one are installed, I'm going to clean the gasket mating surfaces and stuff, and paint the little corners down at the bottom that you can't get to whenever it's on there, and maybe get it slapped on tonight. Well, last night we finished this head and got these two corners painted that you can't get to whenever the head is on the motor, and masked off the deck surface on this thing and painted the little corners here too. Got the dowels all cleaned up and ready to go. Cleaned all the mating surfaces like what he's doing right now, and then the Rock Auto demon striked again, because the one head gasket we got was on a wholesale closeout deal. Because I'm not sure why. I'm thinking it's because the package was bent a little bit, but to be fair, they didn't know about this. But as you can see, this one's the worst one. If it'll focus.
It could have been from shipping though too, because the box I think was small.
Yeah, I don't know, but you can see. Yeah, you really can't blame anyone on this one, but
They gave my money back, so.
they did give us his money back, and we don't have to send this back either, because obviously it's going to be no use to anyone. But these two little dents here, and then there's a big one up here. This one looked like it survived. You can even, if you just lay this gasket down flat, you can see it's pretty bent up.
So the moral of the
There's
story
one here.
The moral of the story is, if you buy a bunch of parts for, say, you're doing it in the rebuild and you're getting some really awesome deals on Rock Auto or whatnot, make sure you check all your parts first before you just let them sit on the table until you need them. Because we were ready to put this on the engine last night, and all of a sudden we found out that that gasket was bad.
Yes.
So,
So, part store today.
Get one today and drive 40 minutes to town to get it. So,
Yes.
So just check your parts whenever they come in the mail, because you never know what you're going to get.
Yes. So now, once these surfaces are cleaned and get the new gasket set on there. And by the way, for the Felpro 1037s, it's letters facing up is what they tell you. All what I'm assuming is 16 lifters. I didn't count. Should be 16. I hope so. Okay, so there's 16. Mounting lifters, JB700 Tre, made in Mexico. They're in the fireball bucket, and I have some Earl from the S10. I'm going to use to soak these in said bucket, laying down.
It's not oil from the S10, it's just oil that you used.
Oil that I used in the S10 that was purchased for the S10.
It's new.
So you already used half a quart of this in the S10 because it's burning it like a sieve. So they're all soaking, and I see them percolating. So these will be ready for tomorrow, and we're getting ready to paint the cylinder head, and the rain's a coming. Okay, so Dobby cleaned dog bones. Yes, Dobby.
I'm working on it, bro.
Speaking of which, we have another one ready.
18.
18. Well, there's 2 more left.
Yeah,
You can
I'm
make it.
getting right on it.
You can make it.
Anything for you, master.
Now, I don't have to lift tars in yet. Because waiting on Keevil to tell us on which way they go in, because we can't figure it out. He says, from what I heard earlier, he claims that it doesn't matter, but I took pictures of the lifters and their bores and stuff, so that way he can maybe figure it out. Because the way they are, the bottoms are the same where the 2 holes are, and the said bore However, at the top, it's only on one side that there's a little oiling hole to go up the push rod. So he says it doesn't matter, which I kind of agree with him because the bores that are in the block are the same. But we'll wait for him to give us concrete evidence that that is the case. So then we'll go from there with push rods and rockers and stuff.
Alright, what are you doing, Ethan?
Well, that side is almost done except cylinder 4.
That side's done with what? What are you doing?
Well, rocker arms, push rods, valve guides, you name it. So, however, since these are not adjustable valve lash, you torque it down to 40 foot-pounds. But
how do you do it?
Well, you want the cylinder at TDC on your compression stroke or BDC or
yeah, you want
on your power stroke or your compression stroke.
You want the cam to be no lobes.
Right.
You want it at the bottom base circle on the cam.
Right.
Then you also used lubricant on
under
here,
and on the half moon washer thingy.
Yeah, that goes inside.
And it's kind of going everywhere right now. But the valve guides go underneath this plate. Oh, Loctite.
Yes. A little bit of Loctite. We don't know if you need it, but hey, why not?
Anyhow, so then these thread into here.
And then what?
You get your torque wrench, your 40 foot-pound stuff and things.
How many foot-pounds?
40.
40. So yes, make sure your cam's on base circle so you can torque these down accurately.
Right, you can maybe see that valve did open just a little bit, but the lifter might go down some.
Yes.
I'll check it after I get these torqued.
These lifters did soak in oil overnight, and they do have oil in them, so...
Oh, speaking of which, I'm not sure if I ever made a snippet about this, but obviously that's into...
Well, yes, all the brand new lifters are in, and the little spider thing that holds them all down, the little torque down, so... Alright.
It's a little tighter than I like, so I might spin it over a little bit to see if I can get it a little looser.
Okay, you do that.
But this one's good, for sure.
Super.
Oh, you also don't want up and down. This is fine if it's going up and down.
Yeah, then you got a problem.
So,
all right, carry on.
Well, valve train is all assembled. Right now we have it set to TDC of number 1. So that way we don't have to spin this motor anymore. So that way we could leave the jack under it to support the front. Right now, cleaning valve covers and intake is soaked in lean green right now, so that way hopefully we can put this, well, at least the valve covers. Are you painting the intake tonight too? Okay, so hopefully lower intake and valve covers can go on. So things and stuff and things have happened. Whoa. There's a guy pulling his trailer. Would you care to move your hand, sir? Well, then I'll fill in here for a second. So, intake, 2 bottles of kind of crappy.
Was it 2
right
bottles?
Okay.
Leftover
from the first time that we did this, and then old stuff that we found sitting in a box that was unopened, by the way, but still had dried up chunks of stuff in it for some stupid reason. These back China rails, because this is the one where I ran out on, and I had to push really hard to get the other stuff to come out. It doesn't look great, but it'll seal.
Never gonna see it.
Yeah. However, though, the front one, it turned out really nice.
Ooh.
And the bypass hose, too. Yes.
Well, I'm trying to, but
new one.
You know.
But the front China rolls turned out nice. She'd say rolls.
Rolls back.
Rolls.
Get it, girl. Get it.
Yes, we reused the gaskets we already did because the Haynes manual says it's okay, and we preach the Haynes manual Bible.
Brand new from like what started this whole shit show.
Okay, fuel rail back in where it's supposed to be. Oil pressure switch is back in, and the reason why it's over here now is because we had plumbed in the run stand oil pressure switch gauge like we did on mine. And stuck our primer made out of our little points distributor. It used to be in John's motor. I thought it was points. Oh. Okay, my bad. HEI that we cut the gears and stuff off of. because priming tools are probably expensive. So we just made our own and attached the drill to it. Made about 65 pounds of pressure with speed 1. So, and you might be asking yourself, well, that thing is an oil cooler, so what did you do with them? We just, well, actually it took 2 attempts. We took a 5/8 piece of heater hose and slid them over the fittings, blew apart. And then we took a half-inch piece.
Take the paper towel off there to show people.
Hey.
They can't see through the paper towel.
And took a half-inch piece of heater hose and slid the fittings back. Put hose clamps around the barbs, which we didn't really have the proper size ones, but whatever. And it worked enough to get the priming system done. Now we're leaving this attached. It did. Now we're leaving this attached until it comes time to shove this back in the truck. So that way it keeps the oil in the lines and stuff.
It doesn't make a continual mess on the floor.
Yes. Okay, after several weeks of stuff and more stuff and stuff, this is as far as we're going with said motor before it goes on the truck, which is now right there. So this is where we're going to end this many weeks of episode, and next episode we're going to start by getting things ready on that thing to get said motor set in said truck, because there's a little bit of wiring things that we need to work out, and we've got to do body bushings, which is what I started. So that's where we're gonna pretty much pick up with the next video. So
hopefully you enjoyed this. If you watched it to the end, hopefully you learned some tips and tricks and stuff about, you know, refreshing your engine or whatever, especially Gen 6 454, because kind of learning experience for us as well. So we're pretty confident we did everything right and it should run just fine. We'll see you in the next video. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, and see you next time.